Mark had always prided himself on being a loving and attentive husband, but lately, an unsettling feeling had begun to creep into his mind. It started with small things. Emily coming home later than usual, her phone lighting up with messages that made her smile, the way she had started dressing a little nicer for work. At first, he told himself not to overthink it. She had just gotten a promotion after all. But as the days passed, his suspicions grew into something he couldn't ignore. He tried to brush it off, but the thoughts kept eating away at him. What if she was seeing someone else? What if her late nights at work weren't really about work at all? The idea festered, and before long, Mark found himself watching her every move, analyzing every conversation for signs of deception. He didn't want to be the jealous, overbearing husband, but he also couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. One evening, as Emily walked through the door, exhausted from another long day, Mark was waiting for her in the living room. His arms were crossed, his expression dark. "Who is he?" His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. Emily blinked, clearly caught off guard. "Who is who?" "Don't play games with me, Emily. You've been coming home late, dressing up, smiling at your phone. You think I wouldn't notice?" Emily sighed, rubbing her temples. "Mark, I've been working late because I have a big project. I got a promotion, remember? That means more responsibility, more meetings, more stress. That's all it is." But Mark wasn't convinced. The logical part of him wanted to believe her, but his paranoia had taken root too deep. The way she was looking at him now, tired, frustrated, only made him feel more certain that she was hiding something. He had checked her phone when she wasn't looking, scrolled through her messages, her call logs. There was nothing incriminating, but maybe she was just good at covering her tracks. That night, he lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. His mind kept replaying the same thoughts over and over. What if she was lying? What if she was with another man right now while he lay there, oblivious? The idea tormented him, and by morning, he had made up his mind. The next evening, he decided to follow her. As soon as she left the office, he trailed behind in his car, keeping a safe distance. His heart pounded as he watched her pull into the parking lot of a small cafe. She walked inside, and Mark waited, his grip tightening on the steering wheel. Minutes later, a man arrived and joined her at the table. Well-dressed, confident, smiling. Mark felt a surge of anger rise in his chest. His worst fears were confirmed. Without thinking, he pushed open the car door and marched inside, his blood boiling. He didn't care if he caused a scene. If Emily was going to cheat on him, she would have to face the consequences right here, right now. As he approached the table, Emily and the man looked up in surprise. The man smiled and extended his hand. "You must be Mark. I've heard so much about you." Mark barely registered the words. His eyes were locked on Emily, who was staring at him with a mixture of shock and disbelief. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice wary. "I should be asking you that," Mark snapped. "Meeting another man behind my back? How long has this been going on?" For a moment, there was silence. Then the man chuckled, shaking his head. "I'm Daniel, Emily's boss. She's been working day and night on a major project, and I wanted to personally congratulate her over coffee." Mark's stomach dropped. He looked at Emily, who was now shaking her head in disappointment. "Mark, do you really trust me so little?" Her voice was quiet, but the hurt in it was unmistakable. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. The weight of what he had done hit him all at once. The sleepless nights, the accusations, the spying. He had let his insecurities push him to this moment, and now he had humiliated not only himself, but also Emily. That night, she packed a small bag and left for her sister's house, needing space to think. Mark sat alone in their empty home, staring at the quiet, darkened room around him. His worst fear had never been that Emily would leave him for another man. His worst fear had been losing her, and now, because of his own jealousy, he might have done just that.